Hey everyone, Works here. So I put out a poll on my YouTube channel this week that asked basically, what did you guys want as the last dedicated video to voice play for voice play month, coming as September is coming to a close. Uh, Next Sunday after this video is of course October 2nd, which we were going to get into a Halloween theme. So we'd be definitely doing Oogie Boogie Man. Someone mentioned that in the comments of this poll anyway, so that one's already on the list, along with Emperor's New Clothes from the base gang. But if you have a couple of other Halloween themed ones, maybe from some different groups, not voice play, not the base gang, if you have any other Halloween video ideas out there, please drop them in the comments and we'll continue to add them to the list of stuff that is out there. And then November, haven't decided what we're going to do on a theme. Then, of course, December will be a Christmas theme. So kind of a preview of what's to come for the last quarter of 2022. But I put out a video here, put a few options on there, and then also something else if you wanted to do that. The Dragonborn Comes with over half of the 12 votes that came through. So thank you guys for voting on the poll. So, man of the people. This is what we're doing. It could be a little rude to ask your opinion and then ignore it. So here's what we're doing. I hadn't originally planned on doing this video actually because I didn't want to do like two video game covers, but you know, you guys throughout the voice play month have been asking me to do Dragonborn Comes, put it in the poll. Poll clearly shows you guys want me to do Dragonborn Comes. So here we are with Omar Cardona as the featured collaborator on this particular video. I have seen this video plenty of times, so this is not going to be a first time reaction. So we're not going to get in and do the full feature. I've seen this video a few times. It's actually how I watched this one and then saw the Halo in the recommended video section. So that's how I actually found the Halo song, was by watching this one when I started first checking out voice play stuff. So we're going to just dive right into this. We're going to talk about make sure my volume's up a little bit so we can hear. So we're going to talk about everything that I think is cool, neat, fun in this video. Of course, we're going to start with the setting here in this first shot. Really cool lighting effects here. And then, of course, 4 out of the 5 is Daddy Jeff here is going to be coming through this door, all dressed up as different races of Skyrim, whether we have elves, Nords, Imperials, whatever the case is going to be. I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan, played a lot of Skyrim, still play every now and then, and very much looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6 coming out in like 2030 at this rate, because Bethesda is very much all in on Starfield as their next big game coming out of their studio. So it's going to be a while before we see Elder Scrolls 6, but in the meantime, Elder Scrolls Skyrim has managed to find life for almost a dozen years now. Came out on November 11th, 2011. I remember standing in line outside a GameStop to pick it up that evening. Immediately put it in, let it upload, let it install, and then woke up the next morning because it took that day off too. It took off the 11th rather, to just sit down and play it after doing some house chores that morning while I was engaged. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into this video here, and we'll take a look and talk about Dragonborn Comes. It's not a growl technique, but that's what it sounds like. I know he's using subs here, but it just hits you right away with just insanity.
Our hero claims a warrior's heart. I tell you, the Dragonborn comes.
So we get our first little lead line from Jeff, which is very rare for him to lead a voice play collaboration, being the first singer on a sort of lead melody line. So cool. Also makes perfect sense considering he came in with, the dragon growl. So interesting fact, anyone that's not played Skyrim, different bards across the land of Skyrim will actually sing this one and another song called Ragnar the Red, which is a little more of like a weird, like strange, awkward version of a kid's tale thing. Dragonborn Comes is a little bit more of a serious song inside the game, but all of the singers sing it in a much more, not bass, it's more of like a high to like medium baritone level. So Jeff is taking the initial lines and dropping it, probably 1 to 2, probably 1 octave, maybe 2, depending on which singer you come across in the world of Skyrim. But just a really good start, and then of course we're going to be passing this off onto other singers to continue the other lines.
With the voice wielding power of the ancient Nordon.
So Caesar's actually much closer to what you get in the video game in terms of vocal tone, quality, octaves, things like that. Much closer to what you hear from the bards in Skyrim, the game itself. So just very very cool that he found the ability to kind of match that while keeping it kind of unique to himself at the same time.
Believe, believe the Dragonborn comes.
Love the little baritone bass harmony that these guys got going on here as well. Just adds nice little bit of depth. Again, the original, it's one singer the entire time playing like occasional notes on like a lyre of some sort. So adding a little bit of depth, and then of course the background woes from Omar, and I imagine Lane jumped in on that too. So just very very cool stuff as we get into the beginning, keeping it somewhat simple, not really going too far out of the way to do the wild creative stuff that we expect from voice play videos. That is coming, but it's not at the beginning, which I think is a good decision. Voice play generally does this, where they let a song be very simple at the start so that it allows room and space for the song to build and grow and add layers of complexity and depth, and allow for different styles to pop up as well.
It's an end to the evil of all Skyrim's foes. Beware, beware the Dragonborn comes.
Omar's tone, super clear considering how high it is. I can't imagine being that clean, that high, because I'm not naturally a tenor. I imagine his normal speaking voice is much closer to that of a natural tenor. But yeah, his clarity on his voice is just something to behold.
The Dragonborn come. For the darkness has passed and the legend yet grows. You'll know the Dragonborns come.
Okay, so a couple things before we get into the main melody that everyone kind of associates with Skyrim. Really liked the very full harmony on You Know, the Dragonborn. And then I don't know if it was Lane or Jeff. I think it was Lane doing that kind of like echoey reverb, boop, 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 kind of in the background right there. Is kind of, you just drop everything and you let Omar's comes as he kind of ends the intro, so to speak, comes through very clear. Let's go back and listen to it one more time and kind of really pay attention to just the sort of fullness that this last little chord has, and then of course the whoop, 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 that happens. I think Lane's doing it.
You'll know the Dragonborns come.
Hard to tell who's doing that from the video perspective, though. I imagine it was something that was done in the recording booth mainly. And then let's hear, and we'll get a little bit into kind of the main chorus, so to speak, of the Dragonborn. So that's always a fun little section. So a few things that really stand out to me. One, Ellie being a wizard or a mage character, and as Skyrim knows them, they call them mages. Perfectly fits. Um, Again, Ellie, like Ellie does, good, clear, high tonality there. What I really like is mostly what's going on both visually in this section. So you can see, we're going to go back a little bit here. Right here is where we're going to go at, right from the breath. So right from the start, I like what's going on visually here, and I also like what's going on musically, not with like the main rhythms, but what's going on in the background. So we'll kind of talk about these as I come across them. Jeff kind of jumping up into baritone range there. You expect him to go down, kind of your modern sensibilities with music would suggest that he would stay kind of in that bass range, but he doesn't. He jumps up into a little bit of the baritone there, kind of that baritone range, which, I mean, he's fully capable. You can get up to tenor, let's be real. But it's just a really nice little like surprise for those that have really listened to it. You expect the bass to kind of be that kind of driving force on the bottom of the scale for you, and here they kind of twist it a little bit and don't do that. Especially right there where you expect them as they're kind of doing all these sort of syncopated ahs as they're going through. You have them go up into the baritone, and you expect him to maybe drop down for one little note to harmonize with everything else going on, and he doesn't. It's a really nice little play on your expectations if you've watched a lot of voice play videos. Really like Lane and Caesar's harmonizing in the middle there. They're doing almost like a double baritone level, like you have baritone 1, baritone 2 type situations is kind of what I'm hearing. I know Lane, again, like most of these guys, has pretty decent range. Mostly sits in the kind of baritone low tenor range is my understanding when he's doing the harmony values for songs. I know he can cover bass just like Ellie can cover bass for Jeff if needed, but what I really like is just that it's like, they're there because it's not like completely hidden, but at the same time you are getting a real like full depth of sound coming from them that is just, to the untrained ear, you're not gonna hear it all that much. You just know that it sounds beautiful, but you may not know why. And the why behind it is, I think these two are just doing really great job of adding stuff in. Omar, of course, joining in, and Ellie about to hit some very clear classic Ellie notes. But, everyone always pays attention to the highest and the lowest, and the middle gets lost a lot of the time. So I really want to take this opportunity to shout out Lane and Caesar, who I know hang out in the middle a lot. I think Omar's in here as well with them. Just adding that sort of richness to the harmonies that are going on here and the melodies that are going on here, that I think would make this section much less interesting to listen to if they weren't there. So shout outs to all the baritones and low tenors out there that don't get recognized enough. We're gonna listen to the high note. Hang on. So I talked about visually what's going on here before we get into this. I really like the slow kind of all of them standing up from their places and taking a spot in this, line that's going to ultimately be our big wide shot here. Obviously, Jeff starts the video standing, and I don't think sits down ever throughout the thing. So shout outs to Jeff for standing throughout all of the shots of this video. But they do it kind of in a, you'd expect them to kind of just come up like Jeff, Caesar, Omar, Ellie, Lane on the far end, but they don't do that. They kind of stagger their way up with Lane being the last one kind of sliding in. And I just think it's really cool visually what they do here. It kind of almost comes across as a group of adventurers getting ready to fight dragons. It's a really, really cool visual. Kind of has a combination of Skyrim and a little bit of D&D connotations to it, which I really appreciate because I love both franchises. I really like the Jeff notes there. I think he's not moving a full step on the like going from the third to the fourth note. He's almost going down like half steps on those last like 2 to 3 notes, and I really like it. Just adds like a bit of texture to what's going on. And then of course we're getting our formal dragon shout type noises coming in from the rest, with Lane, of course, now handling the driving sort of tribal drum style that's kind of keeping momentum as this section goes through. So we're going to come back and just listen to it real quick, and then we'll continue forward. I really like the kind of in that background. One of the things in Skyrim is that when you do dragon shouts, your voice tends to echo, so like you can be heard from very far away. So if you were trying to sneak around, everyone's gonna hear you, and eventually you get swarmed if you're in an area full of enemies. So to have, obviously Omar and Caesar, and I imagine in the recording there's probably one or two more to add it, but visually here in the video, to have Omar and Caesar kind of doing that ha kind of going that round. It sounds, when I did it, it sounds like fighting game noises, but it's, but that section, and then at the end I imagine it was Lane with the kind of that breathy almost echo of what they were doing. It's just a really nice little background touch that I think adds, like, for nerds like me that really enjoy the Elder Scrolls series and know Skyrim's stories and lore and stuff like that in and out. Just really nice little touch for, I imagine it's a small segment of crossover fans that love the game but love the music and love people's takes on music. I think that subset probably includes me and maybe like a few thousand people in the US. So, I like to think it's an Easter egg for me, but it's probably was just a creative choice they made that they thought was cool sounding, and they were right. Okay, so Omar and Ellie on the lead line here. So if you aren't familiar with Elder Scrolls or don't know some of the behind the scenes, behind the curtain type stuff with this game, that is not any known language in the United States. That was a specific language written out by a linguist that basically made Dragon Tongue specifically for Elder Scrolls Skyrim. Those lyrics are sung in the original song. If you just go search Skyrim Dragonborn and you do like from the OST, from the official soundtrack, you'll notice that they also do, like, theirs is a much more like male choir style versus this being more sort of a cappella with a twist, so to speak. But those lyrics are there and they actually have meaning. Like, there's a whole translation. I'm sure there's translation videos out there that talk about what all of it means. I don't remember off the top of my head what the lyrics to this song mean and the Dragon Tongue translated to English, but they're out there if you're interested in finding it out. Ooh, Jeff. Again, getting way up there. You expect your 3 sort of high notes, our high voices here in Ellie, Caesar, and Omar to be wonderful and harmonizing together. Caesar, I think, being the one dipping down into the more baritone range to add that richness to these harmonies. But what I really like is Jeff not sitting so much in the bass range there. He's actually jumping into baritone, borderline tenor, as you see right here towards the end, if you listen to it very carefully here. Yeah, during that little section, that little last 5 seconds or so, the lowest voice was not Jeff. It was Caesar. At least I think it was Caesar who's on the low baritone way. Maybe Lane if he was doing that. But very, again, something rare for voice play where unless there's something very specific going on. We saw it a little bit in Enemy after Jeff's little solo line where he jumped like 3 octaves in 4 notes or something like that. Where he wasn't the lowest voice, but I think in the recording, he still came back and laid down the underneath bass line. Here in the recording, he is not the lowest voice, which is something that I don't think I've ever heard from anything voice plays done. I imagine it just happened because you don't just come up with this stuff on the fly and decide to try it randomly. You practice it in some form or fashion, I imagine. So again, just something that really plays with your expectations, because again, when you hear kind of that, it's mixed in a way that it's very forward, but when you hear it, when you hear that type of note and intonation, you expect someone like Caesar or Ellie or even Lane to do it, and then they look over and it's Jeff doing it, and you're like, whoa. So again, just plays with your expectations, shows off the range of all these guys. Again, we know that they all have insane ranges. Most of them I know Ellie can drop into bass, Lane can get into bass because of the beatboxing techniques that he can use. Caesar gets down into baritone, Jeff can get into tenor, Lane gets into tenor, obviously falsetto notes as well. These guys find really fun ways to utilize the fact that they have ranges that are wider than many, many people on this earth. Just very cool stuff. Classic Kelly high note. And Omar joining him. Again, Caesar, I think, being a little unsung hero of the high harmonies here, jumping in and adding that depth to it with his jump into baritone. I also like it's not a walking bass because he's doing like borderline 16th notes, I think. But the kind of I guess a running bass would be a way to call it. Just a little thing that I find that is really fun, and when I'm listening to this on my own in my car or whatever, that's always a section that I find myself mimicking because it's just fun to do as a singer. For me personally, I love just the idea of doing that. Also, some little things that you may not notice, there is some call and response going on here. Not on a very obvious level. For those of you that have watched things like Rains of Castamere and Misty Mountains from Jeff, it's that I love call and response sequences. They just are so fun to me, and are done and can be done in ways that makes music sound much more epic. So all things that I like. So I always like to hear it. And if I recall, let me go back just a little bit more here. I'm still not used to wearing contacts all the time, because I'm like 50-50 between the two. Sorry. So I'm just like randomly scratching my nose because I think I have glasses on. Right here. So it's not a full-on call and response, or question and answer, as I'll sometimes call it. What they do basically is Ellie leads the line, and then 1 octave down-ish, probably more, Omar and Caesar kind of follow in that line with maybe some variations. They don't follow it like to the letter, but you're kind of getting that flow between Ellie on his high notes, and then Omar and Caesar on their harmonies coming in behind him. So a little bit of call and response there, which I think makes me enjoy this section, along with Jeff's little do 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 do, and of course Lane's beatboxing throughout all of this. Very tribal drum, nothing that's like. This is probably one of the tamer videos for Lane's beatboxing. It's not what he's done in Enemy. It's not what he's done, and even running up that hill. I've heard peaks of what's going on in Hall of the Mountain King. By the way, that's one we're going to add to October. I know Hall of the Mountain King's technically not a Halloween song, but I'm going to do it sometime in October. Quite a few requests for that one as well, but this one won the poll. So that's what I'm doing. So fun little editing there, showing off kind of a version of the effects that happen in Skyrim when you do your dragon shouts. Fusroda, one of the very first ones that you get, probably the most famous from the game. In the game, mechanically, what it does is a giant knockback of your enemies. But very easy, uses 2 out of, your typical music sounds, fus and ro, do, re, mi, fa, so, batido type things. So it just adds really fun little things. And of course they did the visuals on Ellie and on Omar at the very least. I think they do it on Caesar. Let's see. Yeah, all 3 of them got the treatment. Well, Jeff and Lane are holding kind of lower harmonies to allow there still to be some musicality underneath this. And of course, I said this is one of Lane's tamer ones. Not the most complex breakdown. Just a lot of type situations. But nice little filler to kind of break up what could have become a repetitive chorus potentially. And just gives Lane a quick moment to shine in this song, because at this point he was the only one really not to have a moment where it's like he's the focus for even just one beat, which is what happened here.
Our hero claims a warrior's heart.
I tell you, the Dragonborn comes. You know, the Dragonborns come.
And then we kind of come full circle with Jeff coming back to the original first line, singing it again to kind of establish a come down from kind of the higher paced, kind of middle section, which is designed to push that sort of epicness, and then the end kind of helps kind of cool the temperature a little bit while still adding its own little versions of being like, all right, now I'm ready to go slay some dragons. Of course, very clear, love it. And then of course we get that boop, 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 which I think again was Lane doing it at the end. So overall, I love this. I love the game. I love this song in particular, and Voice Play did a fantastic job with it. Omar, of course, done quite a few collaborations with this group now. Someone I fully expect to see back in the mix in future videos that Voice Play decides they want to do. But yeah, I think this is great. I absolutely love and adore what they did here. I think this is just such a cool take on something that can be overdone in a way with kind of the epic drive that a lot of people like to put on it. Voice Play found a good balance between establishing, then driving, and then also coming down, which is something that I don't think the original song does. It's been a while since I've heard the original, so I'm gonna have to listen to it again. But yeah, guys, that concludes Voice Play month. We're gonna get into the Halloween themes and also look at Hall of the Mountain King from Voice Play as well. because I know a few of you have requested that. I don't know when that's going to happen. I'll have to find time. Got some things going on IRL. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw probably a couple days ago, or a few days ago at this point, as of release, that I kind of summarized what 2022 has been like for me on a personal level. If you haven't, twitter.com/works_wow. Go check that out. It'll explain a lot of kind of what's been going on and how kind of this process has been very integral to me kind of finding my way again in my life. So I won't get into this too heavy of that stuff right now, but just go check out my Twitter if you haven't, or you can ask questions. I'm pretty open about talking about it at this point. So but that's going to be the end of this video, guys. Like, share, subscribe, comment, tell friends about it, tag creators in it. I don't care what you do with it. Just, share it out as much as humanly possible. I really enjoy making these videos. I really enjoy that. I know there's a certain group of about a half a dozen to 10 of you or so that I can know that usually by Monday afternoon when I check my comments that you've all commented on my videos. I don't mean to poke fun at the fact that you guys are pretty clockwork on commenting on my videos. In fact, I love it because it tells me that, when I get to a point in a day, I can just go look through it. I know I have ways to engage with you guys in the comment section and other ways as well. So thank you all for sticking around. If you're here towards the end of this video, thank you for watching it to the end. But we're going to move on with all our time in the world, guys. We'll be on some Halloween stuff, and we'll be keeping an eye out for new releases, all that fun stuff. So until the next video, guys, I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're having fun. You're listening to good music, and I will see you all in the next video.